The space-time symmetry group for special relativity is the Poincaré group, which is a 10-dimensional group of 3 Lorentz boosts, 3 rotations and 4 space-time translation. It is logical to ask what symmetries, if any, apply to general relativity. A traceable case may be to consider the symmetries of space-time as seen by observers located as far away from all sources of the gravitational field. The naive expectation for asymptotically flat space-time symmetries might be simply to extend and reproduce the symmetries of flat space-time of this special relativity. The first step is to decide on some physically sensible boundaries conditions to place on the gravitational field at light-like infinity to characterize what it means to say a metric is asymptotically flat, making no a priori assumption about the nature of the assumption symmetry group, cyclonic rift. This means that, as expected, one can separate the kinematrix of spacetime from the dynamics of the gravitational field, at least for the cyclonic rift, by ending the turn. The relationship between cyclonic rift and ending the turn in a system's rest frame, where the two values differ only by a constant unit of measurement, rift in response end the turn, or the mathematical formula end the turn equals MC rift, therefore ending the ravaging sensible boundaries set by cyclonic rift. Obeka is the perfect example of this. She got spoiled, you saw her, you smelled her, undressed her with your eyes, you think you know her, you think you've seen it all? I'll take next to turn with Final Fortune and end my turn before I lose the game. You think you're smartest, huh? Wise guy? Listen up, Dwayne Johnson calls me for fitness tips and Commander players come on my channel for Commander tips. That's how things go. I don't make this shit up. You come here for the facts, I got the facts for you right here. First off, this video is sponsored by Collect Edition. They currently have free worldwide shipping on all orders over $10. Check them with the link in the description. And go subscribe to my new Patreon for exclusive content. And I have a Twitter as well. Go subscribe to that too, you jabronis. Link in the description. First off, we got Wheels and Reanimate. Then cheating out big creatures. Then our end of turn shenanigans, Achamon. And don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment on which is your favorite Mariah Carey song. Bad answers only. First off, Wheels. The goal is to fill the graveyard. We got Windfalls. We got Wheel of Fortunes. Reforge your freaking soul. Magus of the freaking wheel. Dragon Mage. A dragon that is a mage.
Wait a minute!
Looks nothing like a mage, looks exactly like a generic red dragon. Whatever, Jace is Archivist. Didn't know Jace had a secretary. Doesn't matter. Fill the graveyard. You know what fills the graveyard besides killing people? Mill. Psychic Corrosion mills each opponent each time you draw a card. So each time you wheel. I hope you get it.
Do you have a better plan? No.
And the new Court of Cunning, sorry. ETBs, you're the monarch. Beginning of your upkeep, any number of target player each mills 2 cards or 10 cards if you are the king. Now that the graveyard is full, it's time to f shit up. Rakshasa the Baser. He's a 6-mana 6/6 cat demon. Whenever Rakshasa the Baser attacks, put target creature card from defending player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control.
I know, it's crazy.
Encore for 8. Now I'll explain to you what Encore does. Exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn if able. They gain haste. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Fuck! Now when the beginning of the end step hits the stack, what do? You end that turn, Achamon! And you get to keep everything. Puppeteer Click, 5-mana 3/2 flying. When Puppeteer Click enters the battlefield, put target creature card from an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It gains haste. At the beginning of your next end step, exile it. Why would I exile it if I end the turn, Achamon? Geth, Lord of the Vault, 6-mana 5/5 Intimidate. Pay X and 1 black, put target artifact or creature card with converted mana cost X from an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Tapped, then that player mills X cards. Mills and Reanimate. What more do you want?
I was made for this.
Sepulchral and Diluvian Primordial. When Sepulchral Primordial enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you may put up to 1 target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And Diluvian Primordial. When Diluvian Primordial enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you may cast up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard without casting its mana cost. 3 for 1, what a sell. Rise of the Dark Realms. Well, yeah, you know this. Put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. Why bring 1 creature back when you can get them all? Gotta catch them all. Dawn of the Dead. No, not the movie. This is a 5-mana black enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life. Boo freaking Who? At the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to play. That creature gain haste until end of turn. Remove it from the game at end of turn. That is, unless we end the turn of Chamon. Whip of Erebos. 4 mana, creatures you control have lifelink. Pay 4, tap, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gain haste. Exile it at the beginning of your next end step, or if it would leave the battlefield instead of putting it anywhere else. Really cool, especially if we can keep the creature if we end the turn of Chamon. An all-star in this deck, Corpse Dance. It's a 3 mana instant, buyback 2. Return the top creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield. That creature gain haste until end of turn. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. With a sack outlet, you can abuse pretty much anything over and over. I give you my heart and I love you forever and ever. Cedris, Edric, CDC, Cedri, hey, change it. 6 mana Grixis creature, 5/5. Each creature card in your graveyard has Unearth 3.
So,
Unearth is another stupid thing we can do by ending the turn. Return that card to play. The creature gain haste. Remove it from the game at the end of turn, or if it would leave play. That turn will never end. We get to keep it. I hope you get the jizz now. Felden has been on a lot of paths, and now he's on the third one. He's a 3 mana 2/3. Pay 3, tap. Create a token that's a copy of target creature card in your graveyard, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. It gain haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step.
Whatever game you're playing, it won't work.
You get where this is going now, huh? This is really good because you can keep that creature in your graveyard and abuse it with something else. Hey, a new card, Aromi of the Dead Tide.
I think we're gonna be friends.
special friends.
How do you kill a tide? Who knows? It's a 3 mana 1/4. Tap, exile cards from your graveyard equal to the number of opponents you have. Target creature card in your graveyard gain Encore until end of turn. The Encore cost is equal to its mana cost. We already said that Encore was really good, not as good as the M&M show, but still, what stupid things we can do with Encore? Muldrifter, draw 6 cards. Dockside, create a token for each artifact and enchantment your opponents controls 3 times. Or Solemn, ram for 3, then draw 3 cards when they die. Use your imagination, Arumi makes everything broken. Hey, kinda like Encore, Myriad is another stupid thing we can abuse by ending the turn, Chamon! Myriad. Whenever this creature attacks for each opponent, other than defending player, you may create a token that's a copy of this creature, tapped and attacking that player or planeswalker they control. Exile the token at end of combat. Now you get it, we end the turn with the end of combat on the stack and we keep them all.
I want to apologize.
Broodbirth Dodge Viper is a 5 mana 3/3. Whenever Broodbirth Viper deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Draws cards, okay, I like it. Banshee of the Dread Core, ooh, 5 mana 4/4. Whenever Banshee of the Dread Core deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card. Okay, so we got draw and we got discard. And Warchief Giant, he's my favorite. He's a 5 mana 5/3 haste. Would you ever put a 5 mana 5/3 haste in your deck? No? But in this you will. He big, he attack, and he's right on top of the curve right after you drop Obeka on turn 4. If you get a Signet or a Talisman, drop Obeka on turn 3 and attack with the Giant on turn 4, end the turn to keep all your Giants. Attacking each opponent with a 5/3 haste on turn 4. Then those 4 tokens create another 4 tokens the turn after that, and so on and so on. Talk about a stressful start for your opponents. Blade of Cells, it's a 2 mana, equip for 4. Equipped creature has Myriad. Your imagination is your limit. Imagine giving Ferocious Pup Myriad. 3/2/2 wolf tokens? That's 6 power on the board. Talk about broken.
Bye, have a great time.
Now let's talk about sneaking and keeping. Or like my dead grandma used to say, sneak and keep. Hey, sneak attack. Yep, you guessed it. Keep everything you sneak by ending the turn. Chamon, ending the turn. Chamon.
Okay.
Flame Shadow Conjuring reads, whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 red. If you do, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that creature. That copy gain haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step, but we will end the turn, so you keep it. Hope you get it. Not that complicated, You wanna know what's dumb? Sneaking a creature into play with sneak attack and then paying 1 red to create a token of that creature and keeping everything at the end of the turn. What the
Watch your profanity.
hard, The raised boar, hey, change it, He's a 5 mana 6/6 trample, you know. Back in the days, we had 6/6 tramples for like 9 mana. Magic sure has changed. Wait till you see this. Whenever the raised boar attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, tap and attacking. Return that creature to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. It's kind of like a sneak attack on a creature, and he's a boar god. Fucking god of pigs. Okay, wizards.
I can't believe you've done this.
Akiki Achikitoru. He's a 5 mana 2/2 hasteru. Tap, create a token that's a copy of target non-legendary creature you control. That token gain hasteru. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Haste is just the cherry on top. This guy even looks like a cherry. Flame Rush Rider. Can you get any cheesier than that? He's a 5 mana 3/3. Whenever Flame Rush Rider attacks, create a token that's a copy of another attacking creature, and that's tapped and attacking. Exile the token at end of combat.
That's crazy!
Mimic Vat. Yes, this is an old school classic of mine. I used to play this in Standard. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you may exile that card. If you do, return each other card exiled with Mimic Vat to its owner's graveyard. Pay 3 and tap. Create a token that's a copy of the card exiled with Mimic Vat. It gain haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. Yep. So you pay 3, you tap, you put a token, and the turn at the end of your turn, you keep it. During your next turn, you do that again. And again, and again.
And all of those elements I want to explore.
Now, for some big juicy creatures, you can run whatever you want here. Let your imagination go. Terror of the Peaks. So freaking metal. This card is so metal I can barely maintain all my materials. He's a 5 mana, 5/4 flying dragon. Holy macaroni. When you target him, that player loses 3 life if he targets him. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage to any target. Deals a shitload of damage each time you copy a creature or sneak attack a creature. Now that's freaking metal. Kokushotoru. I mean, imagine giving him Encore, 4 Kokushos, entering the battlefield, then boom, drains everybody by 20 life. Imagine having Terror of the Peaks on the battlefield. When this happens, then boom, you deal another 20 damage wherever you want. Boom. Now Kroxa, when he enters the battlefield or attacks, each opponent discards a card. Then each opponent who didn't discard a non-land card this way loses 3 life. Escape for 4, exile 5 other cards from your graveyard.
Ouch!
With all the cards we'll be wheeling in our graveyard, we can escape Kroxa for really cheap. But the thing is that when he enters the battlefield, you sacrifice him unless he escaped. But here's the thing, when he enters the battlefield, with the sack trigger on the stack, you end the turn. So you get a free Kroxa. You don't need to sacrifice him. Balefire Dragon. I remember this card being like $5 and now it's over $30. Let me show you why. It costs 7 mana. He's a 6/6 flying dragon. Whenever Balefire Dragon deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to each creature that player control. Cheating this into play with haste, then whipping all of your opponent's board like, yeah, I hope you like your fries extra salty. And Runescarred Demon, another stupid staple I've been playing since forever. When he enters the battlefield, you basically Demonic Tutor, another dumb creature that gets crazy when you copy him over and over. Demonic Tutors for days. Now this is just a sample of whatever dumb things you can play, but it's up to your imagination. Like I said, these guys are all really cool. They're all the amazing friends that we have here at Silver Wolf Commander. You can play whatever you want. Now for your end of turn shenanigans. Shenanigans.
The revolution has begun.
Final Fortune, Last Chance, and Warrior's Oath. Yeah, you know what I mean. You have to play these, take an extra turn after this one, and at the end of that turn you lose the game, but we end the turn so we don't lose the game, you jabronis. Time Walk is banned in Commander, and we like play 3 copies of it in this deck, so yeah, it's really good. Now what's as fun as taking an extra turn, ending someone's turn? Glorious End, 3 mana, end the turn. At the beginning of your next end step, you lose the game. Talk about living on the edge. Every play in this deck is do or die, because if someone kills Obeka and you can't end your turn before losing the game, hasta la vista, Obeka.
No.
We got a new card alert.
Who are you?
Zara, Renegade Recruiter. She's a 5 mana 4/3 flying human pirate. Whenever Zara attacks, look at the defending player's hand. You may put a creature card from it onto the battlefield under your control, tapped and attacking that player or planeswalker they control. Then you return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So she's kind of like Igag the Raisebor God Pig. But she grabs a creature in your opponent's hand instead.
You need to travel at the speed of light.
Identity Thief is pretty freaking a sweet-a-roni. He's a 4-mana 0/3. Oh, but whenever he attacks, you may exile another target non-token creature. If you do, he becomes a copy of the creature until end of turn. Then you return the exiled card onto the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So yeah, you attack, you exile a creature, and it becomes a copy of it until end of turn. But we end at the turn, chamon! So technically, you exile a creature each time he attacks. Phyrexian Dreadnought. Phyrexian Dreadnought. He's a 1-mana 12/12. Okay. When he enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of creatures with total power 12 or more. Or sacrifice Phyrexian Dreadnought. Okay, let me just get comfortable here. So basically, when this comes into play, with the sack trigger on the stack, you end a turn, and you have a 12/12 trample for 1 mana. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? A 12/12 trample for 1. You know, you see where this is going? Yeah, okay.
Why don't we just relax?
It's time to stitch some fates with Fate Stitcher. He's a 4-mana 1/2. Tap, you may untap, or tap another target permanent. So, you know, great with your commander, and he has Unearth. So, you know, you can pay 1 blue, bring him back with haste, untap your commander, end the turn, so you get to keep him with Unearth. You know, he's good. Underworld Breach is a 2-mana. Each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to that card's converted mana cost, plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. At the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice Underworld Breach. This was my second most underplayed EDH card from 2020 from my last video. Go check it out, shameless video plug. You will have to sacrifice it at the beginning of your opponent's next end step if you ended your turn, but that's gonna let you cast a couple of instant cards from your graveyard during that player's turn. But mainly it's just here to help you cast all the good stuff we're gonna wheel during the game.
Thanks.
And of course, you cannot have an end of turn commander deck without Sundial of the Infinite. Pay 1 tap, end of turn, activate this ability only during your turn, just in case everybody hates on Obeka. And believe me, buddy, they fucking will. And to finish off a couple of stupid lands you just gotta play. The 3 Grixis bounce lands are just great because you just end the turn with the bounce trigger on the stack and voila, you get to keep both your lands. I usually don't like these lands. I'm just not a fan of lands entering the battlefield tap, especially the way EDH is played now, so freaking fast, but the value is just too good. Or even better, these 3 lands. Lotus Field, Hexproof, enters the battlefield tap. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice 2 lands, add 3 mana of any one color. You get it, end the turn, you get to keep all your stuff. Lotus Veil, kinda the same thing but without hexproof. And Scorch Rune, when it enters the battlefield, sacrifice 2 untapped lands or bury, sacrifice Scorch Runes. Tap, add 4 colorless mana to your mana pool. See, you don't get to see these lands often, but by ending the turn, you get to keep everything. You have to play these, no downside whatsoever. But the best reason to play Obeka is just ending the turn when somebody plays Cyclonic Rift. Go f*** yourself, Cyclonic Rift. Everybody hates you!